Allow me to introduce to you now our keynote speaker, Romania's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Professor Bogdan Aurescu, who has been a much appreciated presence at numerous academic events we have held at the Faculty of European Studies. Thank you for joining us today, Your Excellency, and we look forward to your address.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Dean. Professor Aurescu, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I'm very enthusiastic to attend this event, and I will join President Iohannis in commending Professor Aurescu and the organizers for the substantial first edition of this annual conference. I am confident that this event will become a well-acknowledged landmark in addressing the most salient issues of international relations. Today I will address a very relevant topic, the enduring value of the transatlantic link and the prospects for the future of the alliance. And this discussion touches the very core of the strategic conceptual triad of Romania's foreign policy, or as I called it some time ago, the golden triangle of our foreign policy objectives, increasing Romania's role and profile within the European Union and NATO respectively, strengthening and expanding the strategic partnership with the United States. These three pillars are consistent with the transversal, deep and consistent attachment of our country to multilateralism and international law and the rules-based international order. Building on President Iohannis' assessment on the international context and the dynamics within the transatlantic relations, we are indeed at an inflection point for recalibrating our strategic approach. Indeed, as the past years have revealed, there is not only an increase and multiplication of risks and threats of diverse, unprecedented nature, such as hybrid cyber or disinformation, but also our shared vulnerability. The COVID pandemic was another strong reminder of the importance of multilateral cooperation in addressing global challenges, the importance of a rules-based international order, and the need to build up our strategic resilience. Nevertheless, as Mr. President's message affirmed earlier, we should see in this dynamic not only challenges, but also opportunities and time for reflection followed by action. Now is the time to step up transatlantic unity and cooperation and have a more strategic transatlantic approach on current challenges. It is thus only natural that I firstly refer to the North Atlantic Alliance, which is the sine qua non component of the transatlantic relationship. For more than 7 decades, NATO has been at the foundation of the transatlantic security. An alliance passing the test of longevity and with the ability to keep the spirit of consensus sworn in 1949. An alliance able to preserve peace and security on our continent and across the Atlantic. Able to keep us united and to look beyond its borders, projecting stability to help others. For Romania, which recently marked 17 years since the NATO membership, the accession to the most important and successful political military alliance in history meant the beginning of a well-deserved and natural return to the community of values we have always belonged to. But what is the situation now? The future of transatlantic and global security will be complicated and difficult unless we put more emphasis on cooperation, dialogue, and respect for the rule of law and international norms and principles. To promote all this, we need to preserve and strengthen our alliances and our communities. So NATO will remain an essential alliance, one which needs to effectively fulfill its core missions while becoming more able to contribute to the global peace and security. Since the latest summit in London, NATO has started a new reflection process coordinated by the Secretary General under the concept NATO 2030. A process aimed at strengthening the political dimension of the alliance, at crystallizing a vision for the future of NATO, and ultimately at leading to the elaboration of a new strategic concept. And I am glad that in November 2019, I was the first allied Minister of Foreign Affairs to propose the elaboration of a new strategic concept based on the reflection process started at the London summit. We need to design the future of our alliance in a proactive manner for the upcoming generations, meaningful for its member states and for their population. We have to acknowledge that there are challenges which go beyond borders, and this means investing in stronger military, but most importantly, increasing the resilience of our societies, improving defense innovation, doing more research, countering hybrid, non-conventional threats like sophisticated cyber attacks, but also stimulating a more energetic joint work between NATO and the European Union. As several times in its history, the alliance reflects, decides, and adapts to remain fit for purpose organization. And as we could see, including at the Foreign Ministerial meeting this March, this is still the case. The alliance remains strong and determined to further adapt and prepare firm responses to the challenges it confronts now and in the future. In order to do this, Romania envisages a set of priorities. First, NATO needs to further consolidate its deterrence and defense posture. Why? Because it is obvious Russia continues its aggressive actions, building up its military presence in the Black Sea, using hybrid and cyber tactics, propaganda and disinformation, and most recently, massing more of its troops in Crimea and in the vicinity of Ukraine. Such significant troop movements close to the border of another country are worrisome, especially in the context of the conflict in eastern Ukraine. And the NATO allies have discussed yesterday evening this matter during the extraordinary meeting of the Foreign and Defense Ministers, which I have attended together with the Minister of Defense, Mr. Chuka. So it is clear that we need to strengthen deterrence and defense at the Black Sea. A lot has been done, and we are grateful to our allies for helping us with planes and ships to ensure air policing and maritime presence. We would like to welcome more allies contributing to our multinational brigade and the NATO headquarters on our territory to make this force stronger and fit for all circumstances. We look forward to further allied presence to safeguard the security of our airspace and sea together with us. We also need to enhance our dialogue and cooperation with Georgia and Ukraine on the security of the Black Sea region. And we should remain firm in not recognizing any violations of territorial integrity in the region. In the current regional security context, next week I will host an important meeting of the trilateral format on security issues with Poland and Turkey. Together with my colleagues from Poland and Turkey, my fellow ministers, we have invited our close partners, Ukraine and Georgia, in order to discuss issues of high joint interest, especially the regional security evolutions and the perspectives of the NATO summit in this summer. NATO needs to be able to ensure collective defense at its best. We are in the process of articulating a united, solid and effective defense system from the Atlantic to the Baltic, Black Sea and the Mediterranean. Again, a lot has been done, but a lot still remains. Romania contributes significantly to this process, including by hosting the forward presence in the southern part of the eastern flank and by ensuring 2% actually this year, it's 2.07% for defense each year for the past 5 years now. Secondly, we have to deepen our security consultations within the alliance. There is great potential untapped here. And we discussed this at the Foreign Ministerial meeting this March, and all allies are in agreement in this respect. NATO's role to be the forum of first choice for transatlantic security consultations among its members will be re-energized. And as I have already mentioned just yesterday, we had an extraordinary jumbo NATO ministerial meeting at the level of Ministers of Defense and Foreign Affairs with the participation of US State Secretary Blinken and Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin. And this kind of close dialogue will make us stronger. Yesterday, we have assessed the situation in Afghanistan and decided to start the withdrawal of the US and Resolute Support Mission forces by the 1st of May. And as I have already mentioned, we have also discussed the worrying situation in and around Ukraine. On that occasion, I have expressed Romania's support for the Ukraine's integrity and sovereignty. And I have underlined the necessity for the alliance to continue reinforcing our defense and deterrence on the eastern flank of the Black Sea. Thirdly, we will further deepen and expand our partnerships. We continue to cherish and nourish our partnerships, be they at our east, in the south, or in the Far East. We need to talk more and do more with our partners, including, for example, by helping them build their own capacities for defense. The partnership with the European Union is essential and has a lot of potential to develop, as both organizations develop strategic visions for their future, NATO with its, NATO 2030 process and the incoming negotiation on a new strategic concept, the EU with the, incoming start of the Conference for the Future of Europe. We should use this momentum to further deepen cooperation while avoiding competition and duplications. We believe that NATO should undertake a significant long-term effort at stabilizing its neighborhood, in concert and in dialogue with the United Nations, European Union, OSCE, and regional partners and organizations. This is long overdue. In Europe, there are still countries that fight for their own survival, for their own territorial integrity and sovereignty. We see this in Georgia, Ukraine, and the Republic of Moldova, where protracted conflicts poison the security climate. Helping these countries strengthen their defense and security systems is an important undertaking, where NATO and European Union could do more together by joining forces and resources. These protracted conflicts have persisting consequences affecting the security and stability of the region and of the Euro-Atlantic space. The transatlantic community should refocus on the resolution of these conflicts. The EU should re-energize its involvement in tackling protracted conflicts in the Eastern neighborhood and the Black Sea region, as Romania proposed last November through the common letter which I addressed to the High Representative Borrell, signed together with other 10 EU member states' foreign ministers. This aspect is constantly promoted by our country for addressing the arch of instability in the Black Sea region. Fourth, fighting terrorism remains a priority for the future, especially in the southern neighborhood. The alliance has managed to develop in the past years a substantial approach towards the south. We have forged partnerships with states in the Mediterranean and the Gulf region through the Istanbul Cooperation Initiative and the Mediterranean Dialogue. Plans have been developed to defend and counter involvement of non-state actors. Projects to modernize defense capabilities and increase the resilience have been provided to Iraq, Jordan, and Tunisia. Expertise is being channeled through the regional center in Kuwait. The alliance needs to continue and expand this work based on partners' needs in consultation and complementarity with other stakeholders. Fifth, strategic resilience of our critical systems. Hybrid and cyber attacks on our infrastructure, political systems, and economic processes have demonstrated the need for NATO to do more in this regard. Romania is ready to participate through its initiative of hosting the Euro-Atlantic Center for Resilience, open to EU and NATO member states, as well as for partners. The center will manage various programs meant to advance resilience initiatives through three pillars: risk mitigation through anticipation and adaptation, development of analytical tools and best practices, practical cooperation on education, training, and joint exercises. Six, helping countries cope with the consequences of natural disasters or other types of civilian emergencies will remain an important dimension of NATO mission. In the past year, the alliance have done a lot to avoid that the COVID pandemic spills over and develops as a security crisis. NATO coordinated requests and offers of assistance and created a NATO Pandemic Response Trust Fund to maintain a stockpile of medical equipment and supplies. Military forces from NATO allies were used to transport medical personnel and equipment, build field hospitals and treatment beds. Testing laboratories were shipped to detect the transmission of the virus. Bosnia and Herzegovina, Montenegro, North Macedonia, Republic of Moldova, Georgia, Ukraine, Tunisia, Iraq, and Afghanistan were among the beneficiaries. Romania was the first ally to use the strategic airlift capability of NATO to bring medical supplies. Seventh, emerging technologies. The alliance must stay ahead of technological developments through research and cooperation and counter any attempt to use them in a negative manner. To deal with all these challenges, transatlantic unity, consensus, and cooperation remain as important as ever now and in the future. The Secretary General reports in his annual survey that 2020 marked the sixth consecutive year of growth in defense spending by European allies and Canada, with an increase in real terms of 3.9% from 2019 to 2020. And according to the last surveys of allied security perceptions across all NATO member states, the transatlantic bond continues to rate among people as highly important in dealing with security challenges. 79% consider the relationship between North America and Europe as important. Ladies and gentlemen, as Mr. President's message mentioned earlier, the new administration in Washington offers a window of opportunity for renewing and strengthening the transatlantic partnership. The strategic cooperation between Romania and the United States is at the highest level of excellence. This year, we mark a decade since the adoption of the joint declaration on the strategic partnership for the 21st century between Romania and the United States, and since the entry into force of the agreement between the United States and Romania on the deployment of the US ballistic missile defense system in Romania, both documents which I had the honor to negotiate on behalf of Romania. This May, we also mark 5 years since the ballistic missile defense site in Deveselu reached full operational capability and was integrated in the NATO system, which is a symbolic project for our joint Euro-Atlantic security. After a short meeting in the margins of the NATO ministerial this month, 2 weeks ago, I had a 40-minute phone call with Secretary Blinken to discuss the main lines of development of our strategic partnership. And I can say now, confidently, that our strategic partnership is on a very good track. Indeed, our strategic partnership with the United States is built on mutual trust, credibility, predictability, and shared values and interests, which prove to be crucial in adapting to the evolutions of the global and regional environment. As a single community of values and security, we will continue to work together with our most important strategic partner for consolidating the transatlantic link, both in NATO and in other formats, including by actively supporting, as presidency of the Community of Democracies, the organization of the Global Summit for Democracy, which President Biden wants to organize by the end of this year or the beginning of next year. I will close my remarks with these positive perspectives and the firm belief that together we, the Euro-Atlantic community, will bring substantial contributions to regional and global security and ensure stability and well-being for our people. I thank you for your attention and wish you very good discussions. I hope to see you at the next editions and convey once again my congratulations to the organizers, especially to my good friend Professor Aurescu, who put together this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister, for your address.